Brenda from Blue Planet Travel. Today we have a very, very funny comedian. Her name is Lisa Alvarado.
Alvarado.
I said it right. How about that?
Did it.
Thank you so much for squeezing us in your very busy schedule.
Yes. Yeah.
So, where are you from?
I was born in Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah, but my parents were born in Lima, Peru. So we're first generation.
Yeah.
In the U.S. So yeah.
So, how long have you been a comedian?
23 years.
22 years.
Yeah.
What made you
Started in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great comedy community. Chicago's really fantastic. It's a great place to start, but then there's really not enough shows to develop. You have to pretty much get on the road. So that's why I moved to LA. It was either LA or New York, and I was done with winter. So
yeah.
LA.
I don't blame you. I don't like the cold.
Yeah, I know. It's just too much. Yeah.
So, what made you want to become a comedian?
What made me want to become I think, like most comedians, you grow up in trauma, and it's a coping mechanism. So, comedy is an escape of pain. It's a different way to deal with it. Some people use drugs, alcohol, run away. I was like, let me tell some dick jokes, Instead of crying about that, let me talk about someone's small penis.
So, there's different types of comedy where you have like one-liners and then you have like storytelling. What kind of comedy do you consider yourself?
I am more a storyteller. I have really terrible memory. I had a concussion, so I lost a lot of my short-term memory. A lot of it came back, but it's not where it used to be. So every time I go on stage, I don't care if I'm doing 5 minutes or 55 minutes, I take a set list. Because sometimes like I said, my short term, especially if I write a new joke I want to include in that set, it's gone. Like once I hit the stage, I'm so interactive that even though I'm a storyteller, within those stories, there's punchline. So if I was a one-liner comedian, I don't know how I would do it. Like I literally read off cards when I write one-liners. Like in my PG shows, I do that. Because I also write for shows and stuff like that. So I'm really good at writing setup punch, but I enjoy a chunk of material. Like my material, the closer that I'm doing tonight and the Rated R show, that's a 15-minute chunk that started off with like 2 or 3 jokes, and then I just kept adding. So a 15-minute chunk is a lot easier to remember because it has like these, like a story, versus like one of my friends, Brian Kiley, who's an amazing comedian, all he does is set up punch. So when he does 45 minutes to an hour, that's over 100 jokes to memorize.
Wow.
Like in a row, and I'm not that comic.
Wow.
I need chunks. Otherwise, it's really hard for me to remember.
So you said you're also a writer?
Yeah. I've written on a couple different TV shows. I wrote a script that got picked up by Sony a couple years ago. I write for other comics. Yeah.
That's a lot to balance with all your traveling and all the, that's a lot. How do you keep up with all that?
It's hard. It's hard. That's why I was late today. Because I literally, right before here, I was like, I got to eat something, and then I got to write my set list, and then and I'm not a morning person, so.
Neither am I.
You're not either?
Oh,
yeah.
Most
artists are
pry
not.
me out of bed. He'll bring me my coffee every morning. It's
exactly.
amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has
I can't
to pry me.
function without. I had to go get my coffee, and the line was long. I was like, this taking forever. Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot to juggle.
Yeah, but you know what? If you love it, then you're excited about it. Like the fact that I can actually make a living doing what I love. Most people don't get to do that. They do a job that maybe they like, and has its ups and downs, but I'm my own boss, which is so different. So if I don't want to get up and I don't want to work, it affects my career. I'm responsible for that. You know, I don't have to go to someone and go, what do you think my schedule should be for the rest of the year? I do that. I choose cruises, clubs, whatever. So if I'm working myself to death, that's because I want to work that way, which I love, which I think is why I work so much, because I get to say, and I get to say yes and no. It's just so much more rewarding when you know that when you write a joke or you work really hard and it goes well on stage, it's this, there's nothing else like it. There's nothing else, writing a new bit and it crushing on stage. It's like this feeling of euphoria. Like you know how they say when marathoners run, they get this like,
the high.
Yeah, this
like the
high.
runner's high.
This runner's high of like this euphoria that's like, you know, can't even compare to drugs or anything like that. So that's the euphoria that I look for in an audience. And definitely there's painful times. Like there's times where, you know, you write a joke and it just crashes and burns. And a lot of times with comedians, we like the jokes that nobody else likes the most. It's so common. Like where a comedian will write a bit that they believe in and that they believe is funny, and they just pitch it to the audience over and over, and they work at this angle, they work at that angle, they're like, what if I tweak that? And it just doesn't go. And those are the jokes that we're like, I'm putting it in anyway, you know, like I'm gonna put it in between two things that work.
This is my favorite, I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, and it's like an artist where you get to paint, and for me, every painting's different. Like I have my schedule of jokes, the things that I write down that I want to do, but I always talk to the audience. So depending on what they give me, I'll riff with them for 10 minutes, or I'll go back to my set list. That's why I have it there, because I'm like, oh my gosh, we were talking about Texas and this other stuff that I had no idea we were going to talk about. And then I got to like somehow get to my closer, you know? So I'm like, what was I talking about? But that's the great part about this job is every night, it's for me, it's different, you know, and every audience is different. Some audiences give you a lot, and some audiences come in with like this attitude where it's work, like it becomes work for you. Like I kind of felt like my show last night was work. It was, people were tired. I was like having to put out all this energy and like kind of wake up but it doesn't matter. You have to do it, you know? Like I can't choose the times that I go on stage. They choose it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Did you have anyone that inspired you?
I think this is weird, but one of the first comedians that I saw that I was like, I'm going to do this, was Bill Cosby.
Really?
Pre-rapey. Pre-rapey. He was just so brilliant in the way that he animated things that were inanimate objects, like a table or a dresser, or that there was things that he did that I hadn't seen other comedians do, that I thought was brilliant. Also, Paula Poundstone, brilliant comedian. Like the way that she improvised with the audience and the fact that she was clean, just brilliant. Such a great writer, so smart. And I'd have to say Richard Pryor is just George Carlin, but Richard Pryor just has my heart, because the way that he was vulnerable, not every comic is vulnerable, and that's what I strive for. Because I think there's really brilliant comics that talk, like Seinfeld, that talk about traffic and, you know, animals and the everyday mundane stuff. He does it in a very unique way, but I don't walk away from his show going, I know who this guy is. I know who he is. I know what his family's like. I know what he is like when he's off stage, what his hobbies are like. I don't know anything about him as a human. But when I walk off stage, you're like, she has a son, she has this, she grew up with this kind of father, like that, you know my family, you know what I like, you know if I'm single or I'm dating, you like all of my stuff, I bring it It's the best therapy.
I was about to say, that must be your therapy right there.
Yeah, it really does kind of heal you when you talk about really hard things on stage, because you look at people's faces and they're like, oh, that happened to me, or I can relate to that, or my ex-husband said this thing to me. Just like, I can't believe we're doing this. It's really, and I think that's where the funny comes in, is they recognize the fact that, yep, I went through that too, or I know what that's like.
Yep.
So I really like comedy that doesn't make you look all polished, that makes you look like a normal human who's hurting and has been through stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of comedy I really love, that you know, you can actually relate with and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So do you have any comedians that you follow?
On social media?
Yeah. All right.
Of course, I follow a lot of women comics because I feel like it's really hard for us in the business. So I love to support, and I like their style. You know, like everybody has a unique style, and so I follow like Sarah Silverman, Chelsea Handler. I follow Annie Letterman, she's hilarious. Karen Rontowski. And then a bunch of the guys that I follow. Gary Goldman, if you've not watched him, you need to. He's brilliant. And then some of the celebs, but then some of the people that are at my level, where you have TV credits, but you're not super famous. You're like in that in-between. You're not a beginner, but you're not like up here. And a new trend that you probably have noticed on social media is comedians posting clips of audience work.
Yes.
Yeah, like that's a huge thing right now. So some of those I follow. Jessica Cruisin is fantastic at it. Ian Bagg is unreal as an improviser, like probably the number one in the industry. Ian Bagg, look him up. He's fantastic. Follow him. Jessica Cruisin, same thing. She's unreal. There's just so many people killing it right now with doing those kinds of clips. And the great thing is you don't have to give up real jokes, because that's the thing that comics don't like to do. We want to save all our jokes for our comedy special.
Exactly.
And then get it out there. But if we given all these punchlines away for free, then everybody that sees the comedy special is going to be like, I heard all those jokes.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think comedians do? The only way to perfect a joke is to actually do it over and over and over on stage. And I know that audiences know that, but it doesn't mean that they like it. They're like, write another half hour. Well, give me 6 months and I will.
See, that's the thing that I find odd, because like for music, people will listen to it over and over and over, and they like it.
Right.
And there's certain jokes that I know certain comedians do. It's like, oh, do that one.
Yeah.
But they don't.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute, that's my favorite joke.
Yeah.
But they're not going to do it again because there's so much pressure to have brand new.
Right.
So there's a lot of pressure in what you do. And
and especially on ships, because the audience is on the ship with you. You're not leaving. It's the same people. So on the ships, you have to have 4 or 5 different half hours easy, because it's the same audience. So if they love you, they're going to come back to another show.
Exactly.
And I remember when I was first starting ships many years ago, I didn't have that much material. I had maybe an hour, and that's not a lot for ships. You need like 2. And I repeated one joke on accident because I got a little nervous, and the person sitting in the front row yelled out the punchline. And I was like, fuck you. But also, how rude is that? Like, one joke out of 30 minutes I repeated, and they just were like, knew my set and just yelled it out. And I was like, who does that?
Well, I think people on ships, a lot of people, this is their first experience with comedy.
Yes, I know.
And they don't have that etiquette. They don't. They haven't been to the comedy clubs.
Right.
My husband and I love comedy.
Yeah.
And we go to like side splitters and stuff like that. And so we love to go see the comedians.
Yeah.
And lot of people, this is their first time, and like we've talked with other comedians, they think they're helping, but they're not.
Well, they
Also
don't
on
know
the
comedy etiquette. Yeah.
Right, and also on the ships, you have the drink package.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're not driving, so.
and so even if they did have the etiquette, they forget the etiquette.
Yeah. Well, the big thing I think that is different on the ships is that they don't pay for comedy. It's included, just like all the other entertainment. The singers, the dancers, everything's included,
Exactly.
which is great, but it doesn't add value, because if you walk in to even the comedy clubs here, if you walk in and you paid $20 to get in, if you don't like one joke, guess what? You're still staying because you paid $20.
Yeah.
Here, if people don't like a joke, they're like, I'm out. Did you just say something I don't like? I'm out of here. Or they're like, you know what? I gotta go pee, or I have a dinner reservation in 10 minutes, so I just wanted to drop in and rudely walk out during the middle of your show. So there's no, like, you're crushing if you can just keep people in the room. Not just laughing, but just keep them in there and wanting to be there. You know what I mean? It's amazing.
I didn't think about that. But
Yeah.
you do have a point.
There's really, it's bizarre in that way that, but the other thing is it makes you a better comic because you have to win them over.
Yeah.
They don't know who they're getting when they come on the ship. They just get a comedian or two or three. And the other thing I hate about working ships is that when there's two or three comedians, everybody rates you. They like, this is my favorite comedian. Oh, I don't like that comedian because I don't like female comics. Or this is my favorite. Or I like this one because they talk dirtier. Or I like, and they start comparing, which is a natural human reaction to things, is to compare and see what's better. But it's not that one's better. It's just that one has a different style than the other one, which is fantastic. Like, it's great to see one person that does impersonations, one person that uses a guitar, one person that does set up punchline through their whole set. It doesn't mean that one comedian sucks and one's great. It's just that maybe you like the singer that adds songs to comedy. Maybe you like the one that does ventriloquism. Maybe you like the one that just does set up punchline. But the great thing is it's for everybody. We have a choice. But it's weird on here because in comedy clubs, it's not like that. Like, you know who you're going to see. That's why you bought the ticket, because this is your comedy, one of your favorite comedians, and you know, you have openers, but they're always less experienced, and you came to see this person. So when you come on the ship, they're seeing you for the first time. They've never been to a comedy club, and they're like, or, oh, I love it, and then they can't get into your next show because it's too packed or something. So it's wild. Yeah, it's a different, and I don't like performing in front of kids. PG shows should not exist where children are allowed. And I know I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but it's because even if a comic has a clean set, a PG set, which I do have, an hour of that, it doesn't mean that it's appropriate for children. It doesn't mean that kids will even like it. Because say I'm talking about divorce.
Right.
Kids can't relate. It's not dirty material. It's just the kids, they get bored real easy, and then they start playing on their phones, or they start messing around or making noise. Then the parents distracted, and then everybody's not cohesive.
Engaged.
I don't mind doing PG shows for adults because they're ready for comedy and they understand stand-up. A kid has never been to a live show that's stand-up. So it's really different, and it's really hard to entertain both age groups at the same time with clean comedy.
Exactly.
So I feel like it should be at least 13 and above for PG shows so that they can sit still and understand the jokes better.
I agree.
Yeah.
So is there anything you have going on that you want to promote?
What do I have going on? I have a lot. I just taped a special in Chicago, and I'm hoping, we're editing it, and we're hoping to sell it. And I am also selling a documentary that I shot. which was just my heart. I shot it right before the pandemic. We edited it and got it ready to sell during the pandemic because I was home and I could do it. It's about me helping a man. His last wish, his final wish, he was dying, was to try stand-up comedy. So me and my friends wrote some comedy for him, and he actually ended up getting up on stage in his wheelchair. He had ALS, and so his speech was going, he was losing control of his whole body, and he got up there and still did it, and it was fantastic. And so we put a film together documenting his whole journey doing this. It was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how I started my podcast, which is Find the Funny with Lisa Alvarado. And what we do is try to find the funny in people's painful situations. Right. So like I've had people on with cancer. I had a guy on that lost fingers in an accident. I've had a singer that had throat cancer. Like, so we don't make fun of their situation, but if they're willing and they want, they will come on the show, or they'll call in or email in a question or tell their situation, and comedians and I will make it funnier, you know, kind of give them something to help them laugh through the pain. So we do that, and then I talk about what it's like to be on the road. So Find the Funny. You can find me on social media, YouTube, Lisa Alvarado Comedian. My Instagram got hacked, so you're not going to find me at Lisa Alvarado Comedian. All my followers, all my pictures, everything got taken down. It was hacked. And I've appealed like 8 times to Instagram, and they will not give me my account name back. They won't give me any of my videos back.
No.
Everything's gone over, like, I don't know, 6 years or 8 years of all these fans I had. Thousands gone. So I had to start a new Instagram. Is Lisa Alvarado Comedy now. And I just started it.
So everybody needs to go there.
Yeah.
So that you can get a hold of her.
I know. It's so you guys have an Instagram and all that stuff?
We have Facebook and we have YouTube for now.
Oh,
We do have Instagram, but I'm not as active on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Are you guys on TikTok?
No, but that's something we were considering.
Yeah. You may as well, especially if you can take tiny little clips of this stuff and just, put it out there. May as well try.
We'll have to
Real quick,
expand.
Yes.
Do you have any bucket list things that you would like to do in comedy? Any venues? Anybody you'd like to work with?
Bucket list. I would love to headline a stadium.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's the goal, to get there someday. It's not a TV show, it's not like any of that stuff. It's more like just progressing with stand-up. Because the reason most stand-ups do TV is to get to the place where you can sell out every theater, you can sell out a stadium. And when I go on tour, even now, I like to bring female comics. So it would be just amazing to sell out some huge venue and just have all women. Not that I don't like the men comics, I do, I love them, and a lot of them are my brothers, but it's just harder for female comics. So I want to crush it with just a group of women, just bringing the heat on stage.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much
Of
for
course.
helping us find the funny in life.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed your show. And everybody, if you ever get on Carnival, do you do any other?
Yeah.
Well,
I
if you're
do.
ever on a
I
ship
do.
and she's on it, get in line early. She's hilarious. You'll have to see her. And you deserve a great vacation. We plan to get you there. Bye now.
Later.
Thank you so much.